Hello, good morning and welcome to Sunrise Daily. I'm Nelta Igbe.
It's Friday. Welcome. I'm Kayla Magwa.
You know, it's a beautiful thing. If you just left the studios, the morning brief studio, you have the guys working out there doing their exercises. I hope you've had yours. I think Kayla did just about that before she got here. But we're going straight off.
I have a confession to make.
She didn't exercise. That's not the point. It's okay. Let's just say that maybe Coyote and Co did it all for you on your behalf.
Yes, thank you, Coyote. So all nice.
Right. So we'll move on real quick. Let's go see what's going on in Maiduguri, Borno State to be precise. The situation there. Let's go. Okay. Now you see that? You see that? You see that? The last few days we've been talking about this. It all started basically on Monday. That's a timeline. It started out on Monday and it got worse on Tuesday, Wednesday, before the evacuation started. A lot of places are still submerged.
I mean, what do you say
about
to this? What do you say? I mean, I was watching, I think we're going to hook up with Ayola at some point during the show, just so we can get a situation report as well. You know what's strange about this skyline? That just before, we had done a skyline of the place without the flood. You know, so we know that these places that are covered in muddy water, actual roads and access routes. And now, muddy water everywhere. I keep worrying about the disease that flood brings. People don't realize it's something that kills. It kills more than the flooding. You know, the diseases that come with the flood. I saw the Minister of Health yesterday on our programs talking really about some of the work that they're doing to make sure that the impact of this is reduced to the barest minimum. So much work needs to be done. I mean, look at Maiduguri. This is the worst flooding, they say, in the past 30 years.
Yeah.
30 years. We're listening to the news very intently to hear where the ball dropped. And something instructive was said at that NEMA meeting. Oh, this dam, who's been managing it? Because it's not just the flooding like we know. It's not just the rain that caused this flood. There's that situation with the dam. Was water released at intervals? Is the place being managed? What happened before the thing broke? You know, there's so much. And we've been talking about it, but I mean, we're going to continue talking about it until whoever or whatever group of people dropped the ball on this have to be brought to book. The death toll is too high. Those affected by this is too much. It is such a disaster. And Maiduguri is a massive place. Borno is a massive state. So for it to impact the state this much, something needs to be done to ensure that this never repeats itself again. And one of those ways is to punish whoever it is that has dropped the ball on this.
So it's as you said, it's not just one person that dropped the ball here. The governor, in one of his interviews, talked about what he did when he took office in his first tenure, going round, visiting areas where the floodplains had been, because he had received information that there's likely to be a flood situation. And he was reaching out to the people, according to him, to move from the floodplains, but nobody moved, nobody budged. Now, the question some will ask is, for those buildings to have been constructed, someone would have given approval for those constructions to have taken place. So who gave those approvals? But he also talked about something else. The fact that the dam, the level of water that came into the dam by reason of the rains was above its capacity. So the dam itself needs to be revisited. It's not just about who's managing it, it's about the capacity. And he's talked about the need to reconstruct and expand the dam so that it can take more volumes of water, because the truth is, with climate change, you can't really predict. We have NEMA and the hydrological agencies talking about the likelihood of increased water inflows into the different parts of the country. And this is what we see here. It's a devastating situation. Earlier on, Ayola reported into the morning brief, and one of the victims she spoke to was talking about his experience. He's talking about the fact that he has not experienced this kind of situation before, that this is the worst they have seen since 1994. He says this is the worst they have seen. And
I mean, we have to be able to grow as a people. And I don't agree. You can predict. You can predict. It's your job. It's your job. Your job is to say, this is the situation, this is a likely problem that we might face. Let's do something about this now. So, that's their job. That is your job. You're supposed to predict. You're supposed to think about the lives that could be lost as a result of, whatever it is that you're managing. If my job is to take care of this table, and I know that this table has something wrong with it, or the weight of our elbows on it is bad, I should be able to say, look, this is what the situation is, document it, scream until when something is done, and then when something is not done, you can say, look at what we have been complaining about. It's a lot of governance. Governance, when we talk about governance, it's not just getting into power or just occupying an office. Governance is thinking outside the box. There's a reason why you are on top of people. You're supposed to be able to think about the future, to plan ahead. You're supposed to see things that we on the ground cannot see. It's an added responsibility and one that people have to live up to. Someone has done, or a group of people has not done their job. That's the truth. Someone hasn't done their job. Someone has entered into an office and then just sat there and been, this is my new office, and collecting all the accolades that come with that office. But there's a responsibility. And I think it cuts across board, not just in Borno here, just in the country as a whole.
Look,
you cannot just be happy with being in office. You have to realize that the responsibility is more.
While you talk about what the government and all of that's supposed to do, we also need to look at what are the people doing. When the instructions come, when they move from here, guess what? Because of the level of distrust or mistrust, as the case may be, the low deficit in trust, the trust deficit. Some will say, they want to move us from here because they want to take our land. And those stories have happened all over the country. So while leadership is also looking at the things that need to be done and instructing the people to move, going by the statements from the governor, there is need for the people to also believe that they're asking you to move is not to take your land. It's because there's likely to be a situation like this in certain places. And then we also need to manage our environment. Throwing waste into the drains. The drains is not helping in any way. So, but let's go on real quick and talk to our correspondent Ayola Kazim, who is currently in Maiduguri. And yes, indeed, Ayola, how are you doing today?
I'm fine, thank you. And yourself?
Well, good. But seeing the water levels out there, I know that in some parts the water has receded, and where you're standing looks like there's no flood in that area. It's receded on that side. At least that's where the people are. But just bring us up to speed. What's going on now?
Well, as you said, the water level is receding, and thanks to the sun, you can see right now, I had to put on my hat because it's very, very sunny and hot. And if care is not taken from what we are seeing now, if the sun doesn't come out, you're going to see the place flooded as well. You can see everywhere is even marshy as it is as of now. So we all need the sun to come out for the people of Borno so that they can enjoy themselves. And earlier I spoke to the crew on a morning brief, telling them that the people here, they've not seen the rise that's been promised, and they're hoping that something comes as quickly as possible, because this is an emergency. This is not the time to be sitting in committees and be saying that. That's what they're saying. They need something. And I have here with me, hello?
Yes,
yeah, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Okay, and then I have here with me, actually, I was saying, the zonal coordinator for Northeast, especially in Borno and Yobe State, Mr. Sirajo Garba, is going to join me now so that he will give us the situation report on what is going on. He said to me, they're doing what they can, but I'm just going to ask you, don't take my word for it. Good morning, Mr. Sirajo. Yes, you said to me, you said you're doing what you can, but just talk us through what the situation is at the moment.
The situation at the moment is that the water is receding, and the evacuation and rescue of those that are trapped is most important. At the moment, a lot of hands On deck, we have our colleagues with other partners, most especially the military. They are doing a very good job. The Borno state government and Red Cross and several partners are doing all their best to make sure that those that have been trapped are rescued, because they've not had food, water, and the basic needs for more than 2 days now.
You said everybody is doing their best, but to the people that have been evacuated into this place as of this morning, they're saying the best is not good enough for them because they've not eaten. They just got water supply this morning, and they don't think it's going to be enough. What are you doing about that?
Looking at the thousands of people that are affected, in a situation like this, you can't do enough because of the number of people affected. However, as I said, the structures have been set up. As you can see, there are several partners. The camp coordination, camp management structures have been set up. The state government is also doing its best. They started the wet feeding the very day they established this camp. And we are all providing the necessary things we have. You can see the mobile clinic. For us, we started by providing emergency assistance to those that are distressed. And we've been also providing water. The water you're seeing here is not as a result of rainfall. It's the tanks that have been delivering the water. You can see storage tanks have been provided so that the water will be offloaded in them. And of course, we know it's inadequate. And we've been discussing this since yesterday to add additional cooking points and servers so that we would reach those that are affected. And we don't want a situation where there will be congestion. The registration here was stopped since day before yesterday, and it was expected to resume last night and continue, because at the moment we profiled 2,466 households here with a population of over 8,000 or 9,000 people. The more people we have here, we want to avoid an outbreak. So that is why the registration was stopped here, and it will continue.
Right. Before we saw people that are still, they slept in the street overnight because we moved around town. We came in late. So we moved around town around 10 p.m. and we saw people on the street. And they still don't have access. Where should they be going as of now?
For those that you saw outside, of course, they have the right to make their own decisions. Apart from the established camps by the Borno state government, there are other informal camps that spring up on their own. Some people feel it's not dignified for them to be in this situation. Some prefer to stay with relatives. So they are staying closer to the relatives in the host communities. They prefer it that way. Some people prefer to stay closer to their houses because there are reports of theft, in their houses, and they don't want to lose what they have. That is the reason you're seeing a lot of people, those that were caught up in the other axis are also crossing, because now there's access in some of the bridges like the Lagos Street Bridge. So people are crossing over on their own. Of course, they want to find the spots where they can just cool off, and have their own, peace. So definitely with over 3 local governments, Jere, MMC, Konduga, and parts of Mafa affected, we definitely don't have enough shelter to contain everybody. That is why you have seen for the locations that have been designated, we are providing additional tents, and we have those in our prepositioning, and we have also requested for addition from Abuja, which has been on the way. We've started taking deliveries since yesterday of additional inflatable boats, water purifiers, water tablets, and so on and so forth.
So you said, okay, you're preparing wet meals. You yourself said it's not enough. And then you also have the clinic here.
Yes.
And you're trying to prevent outbreak. An empty stomach with unhygienic environment is a hotspot. for diseases. What are you going to do?
For this, the environment that you are seeing, if you look around, you see that we have officials of the Borno State Environmental Protection Agency. They have been mandated by the state government to be in all the established camps 24 hours to make sure they clean up all those areas. And the state government has assured us they have the chlorine to treat all these areas, you know, because there's a mix of water and sewage waste and all these places. So they have the capacity for that. And I believe if they need addition, there are other partners and government that are willing, to provide additional. And that is why we requested for the water purifiers and the control on the number of people that are coming into the camps. And mind you, some of these people there are taking advantage of the situation. We have persons that are not affected by these floods from the communities around these established camps. They also infiltrate into the camps, then at night they go back. If you have a place to go back to at night, it means you have a shelter. They are taking advantage of the free food, free medication, because we all know the situation at the moment. So they are taking advantage of that, and we're trying to avoid such a situation.
But then we have people like Musa Abba, who we spoke to earlier, and he said to us, his 5 children are missing, his wife doesn't know where she is. Where can they go to? Where can they go check for their loved ones? And if you are looking for your loved one, where can you go to?
Yes, we have the family tracing that is ongoing. This building you're seeing is where we have the Office of the Coordination and Information Center. If you can go in with me or just have some few minutes, you would find some children and women that have been separated. The Red Cross, Save the Children have been doing their best. A lot of those separated from their parents have been connected. We still have a lot. We also have here. So in all the coordination offices within the camps, we have information is being disseminated, and those missing or separated are kept in a safe space until they are reconnected with their loved ones.
And what is your coordination with the military? Because some of them even said that they're just being bussed out of their area and just dumped somewhere. So what is your work with the military in coordinating people that are stranded?
The coordination with the military, of course, this is a civil operation. I cannot speak on behalf of the military, but the military is doing a lot. Go to the field, go to Abaganaram, go to custom area. Everyone is here to assist those that are in distress, and the military has done wonderfully well. I implore you to go out there as you are in the camp now to see live the operations that are being carried out on evacuations. Everybody, all hands should be put together. We have a very good relationship with them. In short, I was in a meeting with the GOC. We met yesterday. We met day before yesterday, the flood response committee. I was also communicated with the Air Force commander. They have established a medical outreach along the NAF base. So if you can find time, go there. They supported, there's a camp, Ali Sharif, where we had vomiting and diarrhea. We have not ascertained whether there's an outbreak. So the Borno State Emergency Protection Agency have responded. They have cleaned up the place. They have stationed their people. The personnel from the Air Force Clinic also came in, and treated those that were affected. We also have a roving medical intensive care unit with my personnel. They are going around apart from this mobile clinic that you have seen here. So I believe we all have a very good working relationship. Nobody is trying to take credit for this. I think it would be wrong for anybody to try to take credit in trying to save people. So I believe everybody is trying his best to see that support is being given. We have a very splendid relationship with them.
I wish you all the best. Definitely, we'll be keeping up to date, and we are coming to see what you're doing over there too.
Come and see the children. They are here. They are here. There's a space that has been provided for them, and we appreciate the ICIC, the Red Cross, Save the Children. They are trying their best, and they have been connecting people with their loved ones. Yes.
Well done.
Thank you very much.
So that's it. That's the situation as of now here at the Bakassi camp on the Dumbua Road in Borno State. We don't know really. So many thousands of people on the streets still need the help, and then coordinated effort, just like you've heard, is what is needed at this time, so that people can have the best they actually deserve.
All right.
Nota.
Yeah, thank you, Ayola. We do hope, do try and stay safe. We know that Maiduguri or Borno is not the only place where the floods have hit. I know that in Kebbi, for instance, the government is setting up committees to look at how to mitigate any occurrence of floods. But we do try and stay safe, and we hope that things work out for the people of Borno and the other states that are flooded. Our correspondent Ayola Kazim in Maiduguri, Borno State, where the floods have hit the worst so far, and hopefully won't have a situation worse than what we're seeing right there. But let's come back here and look at what some of the papers are saying.
And these are the newspaper headlines this Friday morning. We kick off with the Daily Times. We're not running away from responsibility, says the PDP. More on that from page 4 of the Daily Times. As Damagun calls for redeployment of Edo CP, accuses the resident electoral commissioner of partisanship. The Daily Trust leads with the survival story. My wife, 5 kids, still missing. I thought I'd die with my 6 children. Canoe operators collected 100,000 naira to rescue my sheep. We see more of that from page 4 of the Daily Trust newspaper. The Nigerian News Direct leads with Nigeria gets 589 billion naira as the federal government and United Kingdom sign 8 agreements to boost education, governance, and others. One that from page 3 of the Nigerian News Direct. The Guardian leads with the Edo governorship election. Edo Guber, fragile peace deal stokes insecurity, apathy fears. You can get more of that from page 6 of the Guardian this morning. And the Nigerian Tribune is meeting with 259 killed, over 1 million affected by flood in 29 states. That's from the National Emergency Management Agency. UN Humanitarian Agency allocates $6 billion for Borno, Adamawa, and Yobe. More on that from page 2 of the Nigerian Tribune. The Daily Independent, 259 dead, 62,239 displaced, as 29 states battle floods this year. The Daily Independent has more on that story. And now the Business Day newspaper. Firms expand Nigerian operations despite economic crunch. The Vanguard, petrol price, NNPCL, Dangote in gritty horse trading. You can get more of that from page 5 of the Vanguard this morning. And those are the newspaper headlines this Friday morning.
Enter into Setarako camp to abduct some staff of the Setarako company. We had the information, we sent our men not knowing that they have laid ambush on the road. And as they were going into the company, they met heavy resistance from these bandits. They opened fire, exchanged gun fire. In the process, we lost 3 soldiers and 4 policemen.
Well, that's where we'll be starting off to today's conversations on Zamfara State, the security situation there. That was the Commissioner of Police confirming an attack by bandits, and he says they were planning to attack a construction company working along the highway and abduct some of their workers, but they were repelled, and in the course of that repelling action, some of the personnel died. But joining us to look at the situation in Zamfara State, it's the spokesperson to the Zamfara State Governor, Mr. Suleiman Bala Idris. Mr. Idris, thank you for joining us. Okay, so Mr. Idris, the situation there, of course, you heard the Commissioner of Police. Just let us know, what's the situation now in Zamfara State? Okay, we can't hear Mr. Idris. Hopefully we'll be, let's see how quickly our crew can sort that out. We'll come back to you, Mr. Idris. But currently, yesterday, Kayla, there was breaking news about bandits blocking some highways in Zamfara and abducting an unknown number of people. Apparently, the commissioner was speaking in line with that situation when he said 3 soldiers and 4 personnel of Nigeria police were killed while they were doing that. Indeed,
I mean, we did get live feed. We broke the story as it was happening, because our correspondent in Zamfara had sent that visual of people just standing on the highway, and it's interesting because so much has happened since then. We've seen letters flying around. We need to substantiate because I couldn't believe. Could you believe it when you saw those letters? No. I couldn't believe that letter. And those are some of the things that we needed to, get clarification on from the Zamfara state government, because we need to understand what's really going on and where the status is. Do they know? Of course, there have been other figures of police personnel and military personnel that have been affected by this. But, what we did hear in the beginning was that commuters were whisked away into the bushes. Is there any truth to that? Is there any missing persons reports? And what's being done about that situation? It's a very dicey one, especially coming from a state that has become notorious for this sort of crime.
The other side is someone that was asking, I actually was asking someone, what is exactly the reason behind the level of banditry and kidnapping going on there? And the person said, it's a demand for meat. That Zamfara has one of the largest cattle markets. There's the demand for meat. So that's why they're going about cattle rusting and all that. But we have Mr. Idris back. Mr. Idris, I asked you a question. What's the situation now in Zamfara State before we get into the other things we'd like to ask you about?
Yeah. Actually, there was an incident yesterday along the Gusau-Funtua highway. Some bandits attacked the highway along close to Safe local government area. But the situation was curtailed by the security forces, a sad incident that caused the lives of some of the security officers. But I want to assure you that there is the situation in Zamfara State. We are recording positive outcome in the fight against banditry in the state. Just this morning, I heard of a news that a key bandit leader was neutralized last night. And there is ongoing operation in most of the volatile areas in the state, not just the Gusau to Funtua highway. And yesterday, the clip that you played of the Commissioner of Police was from an event where the governor provided operational vehicles to DPOs across the state, and also with additional vehicles that will be used for patrol along the, especially the Gusau-Funtua highway, because that is now the hot area in Zamfara State. It's one of the most volatile areas in the state. So what the governor did yesterday, he provided 24 operational vehicles. These operational vehicles will be used to patrol in constant patrol of the volatile highways in the state.
All right, Mr. Idris, you used a word there that sparked up a question as I was hoping to ask you later on. You used the word fight against banditry, and I want to ask you, is it really a fight or a negotiation? Because as my colleague mentioned earlier, we see letters and statements flying up and down about possible exchange of monies between the government of Zamfara State and bandits?
Ideally, we are not we don't usually respond.
Well, it looks like we've temporarily lost Mr. Idris, but we will definitely get back to and hope.
Do you mean we want to give money to bandits or for negotiation?
Mr. Idris, could you just go back again? I think we missed something there. You said ideally you don't do what?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you. You were saying ideally
what I'm
you
saying
don't.
Is that I was telling a colleague last week that it doesn't even make sense to expect us that we put down a memo that we want to give bandits money, assuming we want to give money out to bandits. It is not expected of us to put down a memo, because that memo will remain there even if we finish this administration go, another administration come, that memo will remain there. And you expect us to just put it down that we are giving so bandit leaders so amount of money. It doesn't make sense. It's just a forged document. And the secretary to the state government responded to that. He did a conference responding to that they forged his document, and the security, we filed a report to the commissioner of police, to the relevant security authorities, that this is what happened, and we want the security to do their work, to fish out the person behind this forgery. And I want to assure you that very soon the culprit will be apprehended and we'll charge him to court for forgery. Because it doesn't even make sense that the Zamfara state government is giving money out to bandits. We stated from the beginning of this administration that no negotiation whatsoever with the bandits in Zamfara state.
I mean, Mr. Idris, so just so we're clear, I mean, it's very instructive that you said this morning. This letter by Malam Abubakar M. Kwaba, Secretary to the State Government, that talks about, giving out these monies to kidnap kingpins, including one that we heard the military talk about recently, Bello Turji. So you're saying this is a forged document, to be clear?
Yes, of course. It's a forged document.
Now, the issue is, over the past few months, we've been hearing stories about negotiations with bandits. In fact, we heard about community negotiations with bandits so that they don't come and attack my community. Let's see who can give them something. And we did hear, hold on, sir. We did hear from the governor that these things were happening behind his back. Could you give us the status of that situation right now?
Well, I think even the people behind the clandestine negotiation in Zamfara state are not, it's not ongoing anymore because of the position of the state government, because of the governor's position. He's always saying it at any given opportunity that there is no negotiation with the bandits, that the state government, this is our position, and we are not shifting grounds, that this is our position. We are not negotiating with bandits. And it's a clear message to the bandits and the communities. I'm not sure, and I don't have that information that some communities were negotiating with bandits. But what I knew before was that some people, some elements that are happy with the security situation in Zamfara state were behind a clandestine negotiation with the bandits, doing it behind the state government without the governor knowing that a negotiation is ongoing. And that time we addressed the issue. The governor was on air. I think last few months he was on this program, Sunrise Daily, and he made it clear that there is no negotiation with bandits and he will not do it, and the state government is not willing to do it in the future. So that is our position. There is no negotiation and we will never do it with the bandits.
So let's talk a bit about the situation in Zamfara. We've seen, is it getting better or is it getting worse? Because it does feel like whenever we take one step forward, it feels like 3 steps backwards are taken afterwards. Because we just heard from the military, things that they have done, attacks that have been done. Then we now start to see the videos online. Then we hear about something else good that the military has done. And then we now start to hear about something else. And then while we're busy thinking things are about to get better in Zamfara, all of a sudden yesterday, a kidnapping on the highway. And the message that we're getting is that it was targeted at the staff of Setraco who are along that road. What's really going on? What's the major challenge with securing Zamfara state from bandits?
You see, that is what happens when you have sabotage in play. What is happening in Zamfara is a clear sabotage, because I want to assure you that there is the security situation in Zamfara is not as bad as last year. because a lot of bandits were neutralized in the past few months, and a lot of success stories. But security, there are security situations that you don't come out with the public and the media and be explaining that this is what happened, this is what happened, this is because you will just preempt the effort of the security forces.
I need to be able to get that clarification from you, Mr. Idris. When you say sabotage, sabotage from who?
Yes, from enemies of the state. There are people at the higher authority that are enemies of Zamfara state. They are just using the security situation to be playing politics. And we all know them, the president know them. And they are at the higher level of authority, but they are playing politics with this because they all they're after is to tarnish the image of the state governor.
I mean, when you say places of high authority, I mean, forgive my curiosity. But when you say people in the higher levels of government, you say you know them. Are there names that you can give, or are there people that we know? You said the president knows them.
I can't be mentioning names, but what I want to assure you is that these are people that are playing politics because they don't want to see the end of banditry in Zamfara state. All they want to see is to be pushing blame. The state governor, it is itching them that the governor is doing a lot of things that previous administrations couldn't do, but the governor has achieved that in just a period of 1 year. You have been recording our live coverages all this while. Within a year, I think we commissioned over 30 projects, major projects, not just mega live. All the stations have been covering the live events. So these are the things that are disturbing some of these politicians, that they want to be playing politics with the lives of people. They want to be saying, just imagine that letter, the forged document. It's just a clear handwork of these politicians that they're just after sabotaging the image of the state government. So no need to mention names, but definitely we have them, we know them, the president know them, the federal government know them, they are part of the federal government. These politicians are the ones behind all this sabotage.
You're making very strong allegations here. The government knows them, the federal government knows them. These are really strong allegations, and I do hope you know that you have to own your words.
Yes.
Well, besides all of this, some will say that at the grassroots, security begins from the grassroots. And we do know that there was a time when the state government, when the Zamfara government came up with a security watch, a local security watch. What's the status of that right now?
Protection guards.
Yes.
Community protection guards.
What's the status right now?
Yeah, the status, this community protection guards is still in operation because we have them. They were deployed across the local governments. That was the initial plan, to deploy them after training, to deploy them to the 14 local governments, because these are people that understand the terrain. They were sourced from the local governments, from their villages, from their towns. So they understand the terrain better than the security forces. So what this community protection guard do is when there is an incident, a report of maybe an incident in a locality, they quickly respond to try and curtail the situation before the security forces arrive at the place of the incident. So they are really doing well. And just last week, there was an incident in some local governments, we have witnessed how these community protection guards operated in that place, and they are working in synergy with the security forces. They are operating in synergy with the police, with the military. So not just the community protection guards, we also have the security trust fund, which is a medium that we want to use to get funds for the operations of the security forces in the state, because this is the security situation is not something that people think that we can be able to handle it within a period of 1 year. This is something that has been on for over 20 years. But we are grateful to God that we are really achieving a lot in the areas of security in Zamfara state.
I mean, when you say that, we want to be able to believe it, but when we see the news and the stories coming from there, it's a little difficult for us to, believe that
I think the last time we heard of an incident in Zamfara state.
I mean, we've had situations of kidnappings, core members who were kidnapped along the highway. But let's talk. I know that a lot is being done. Don't get us wrong. We're not saying nothing is being done, but we're saying that it does feel like you make progress and then you're drawn back. Not too long ago, we saw the president, commissioning some vehicles that were given to the police in your state, and of course, people have been concerned about the mining activities there, cattle rustling situation there, and then this banditry and this kidnapping that's become a business that many people are engaging in. Many of the names in this, now you've told us, fake letter, many of these names are known to us because we keep hearing security agencies talk about these people as kingpins in your state. I mean, let's talk a bit about some of the work that has been done so far. I know that there's this guard in the states, there's a lot that is, put in place here and there. But when it comes to combating the banditry and getting some of these kingpins, what's the situation report, and especially collaborations between the state government and the Ministry of Defense in this regard?
Yes, there's collaboration between the state government and all the relevant security authorities. As we speak now, the chief of defense staff is in Zamfara state. He's in Zamfara state already. He will meet with His Excellency, the executive governor, this morning. And it's all part of the synergy we're talking about. I mentioned earlier that our community protection guards doesn't operate in silos. They work hand in hand with the security forces, especially the soldiers and the police. So it's not as if the Zamfara state government is it doesn't have any synergy with the federal government. No, don't get me wrong. What I'm saying is that the operations, all the successes stories is the military and the police. What our CPG is doing is that they're just complementing the effort of the security forces. They're just giving an immediate response when there is an attack in a locality, because they were deployed to those localities. When there is attack in a locality, they quickly respond. They quickly respond to that attack before the security forces arrive at the scene.
I want to go back to that thing you said. Forgive me. You said that there's a meeting between the minister, is it the Minister of State for Defense, is it Mr. Matawale, that's going to be meeting with the state governor today?
No, the CDS, Chief of Defense Staff. Yes.
Okay. What about that collaboration between the Minister of State for Defense and the governor? Because that was in the news as well. Has that situation been sorted?
You see, there's people always tend to politicize this issue of Zamfara security. There is collaboration. The governor have been saying this, that he's ready and willing to collaborate with anybody as far as that collaboration will bring an end to banditry in Zamfara state. Zamfara state government is willing to collaborate.
Yeah, but I want to get that clear. Has the governor met with the Minister of State for Defense, Mr. Bello Matawale? Have they met yet?
He met with the Minister for Defense, not the state minister. You know, there is a minister, yes. Defense minister.
So that meeting between the governor and Matawale has not happened, just to be clear.
Yes, has not happened.
Because many people believe, and the reason why I'm bringing that up, just so people can understand that that context, yes, is that for some people, for some politicians who have been speaking on the situation, the security situation in the state, they say there's some kind of divide between the governor and Mr. Matawale. And many people have blamed that situation for how the collaborations with security agencies have not been yielding the results that many people would want. So that meeting hasn't happened yet.
They are not getting it right. They are not getting it right. because as far as we're concerned is that the governor met with the president, and I think that is final when it comes to security decision. The governor is in a constant meeting with the NSA, in a constant meeting with the army chiefs, in a constant meeting with the IGP, in a constant meeting. And I told you that he met with the defense minister. So why are they, the reason why I say they got it right, wrong is that what difference will his meeting with Matawale make? There won't be difference because he met, he's in touch with the president, in touch with the NSA, in touch with all the army chiefs, in touch with the defense minister. He's just a state minister.
Okay.
So they just confuse everything, because if you say that he must meet with Matawale, is Matawale in charge of all the security formation in the country? No.
Okay, Mr. Idris, as we begin to wind down, yes, there are reports in some quarters that people in high places in Zamfara are complicit in this security situation. You also alluded to that, and that's why I told you to take cognizance of what you're saying, because these are grave allegations. But now that security personnel are being victims, is there hope for the people of Zamfara in terms of resolving the security situation right now?
Yes, we always have these high hopes that the security situation will come to an end very soon, because I have said it earlier that the reports coming out from some of these localities are positive, because of just last night, scores of bandits were neutralized. Kingpins, not just ordinary bandits. So the hopes are high that the security will overcome the security situation. No matter what, we are on it, and the governor is determined to see an end to this.
Okay,
he's ready to collaborate with all security agencies and security forces and their heads.
Would this initiatives align with this school of thought that the biggest or the fastest resolution to any security challenge is good governance, where the people see good governance, they will stand to defend that governance? Would that align with this?
We agree to that school of thought in Zamfara, because that is the reason why the Zamfara state governor is doing all he's doing. Just day before yesterday, he flagged off the distribution of award letters to service providers for the construction of over 400 schools across the state. And also we have seen what he did in the area of education just within a year. Zamfara state that always was always at the bottom. I just recently, you have seen in the news that Zamfara emerged as the best performing state in the north and the second in the country. So that is the reason why we're trying to rescue Zamfara state from all the wrongs and to provide a good governance for the people. We believe in that school of thought that good governance can bring an end to insecurity.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Suleiman Bala Idris is a spokesperson to the Zamfara State Governor. Thank you for speaking with us this morning.
Thank you.
Sunrise Daily, we'll take a moment, go on a quick break, and when we return, it will be time for Business Morning on the Sunrise Daily. Please stay with us.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Business Morning on Sunrise Daily. We do business for just about 30 minutes before we head back to the Sunrise Daily studio. We start from the global space. Oil prices rose on Friday, extending a rally sparked by output disruptions in the United States Gulf of Mexico, where Hurricane Francine forced producers to evacuate platforms before it hit the coast of Louisiana. Take a look at the numbers now. Brent went up, gained 32 cents, and that's about 0.44% to $72.29. That's for Brent. For WTI, it was a gain of just about 30 cents, also 0.49% is it in percentage, $69.31 a barrel. And yes, Hurricane Francine is a major disruption right there for supply, increasing the price there. But if those gains hold, both benchmarks will break streak of weekly declines despite a rough start that saw Brent dip below $70 this week. Yes, Brent did go below that. That happened for the very first time since late 2021. Current levels, Brent is set for a weekly increase of about 1.7%, while WTI is set to gain 2% this week, and it's all because of Hurricane Francine. Now we look at our currency here in Nigeria. We saw appreciation on NAFEX, depreciation in NAFEM, a worrying trend, saying that there was no intervention by the central bank yesterday, and so I guess that is why the effect of the intervention the previous day has waned off. So we see a drop of 5.84%. That's a huge drop right there for the Naira on NAFEM. So while it opened at 1,558 Naira, 75 kobo, it dropped to 1,649 Naira 76 kobo, and that means that a whole 91 Naira 1 kobo was off the value of the Naira at the close of trade yesterday. And so, well, perhaps there'll be an intervention. Remember, last week, Friday, there was an intervention by the CBN, but it was for the BDC. So we'll see what happens before close of work today. Perhaps we would see a recovery a bit after intervention. After all, we do have $900 million now from the first dollar bond, giving the CBN, well, the reserve or the resources to intervene. But NAFEX, we saw that it was an appreciation of about 3.20%. But I mean, I always like to say that this is what reflects the reality on the Naira. So you want to keep your eyes on the numbers on NAFEM right there. Now, the African Development Bank, the AfDB, has launched a $2 billion 5-year social benchmark bond set to mature September 18, 2029, marking its 60th anniversary. The bond, priced at 99.664% with a 3.5% coupon, is the AfDB's second USD global benchmark for this year, 2024. The bond drew over $3.7 billion in orders from 66 investors, including $150 million from joint lead managers. This reflects strong confidence in AfDB's AAA credit and sustainable bond framework. This was announced September 9, 2024, and priced the next day. The bond has seen rapid investor interest exceeding $2.5 billion so far, demonstrating robust support from AfDB's high-quality investor base. So we do know that AfDB intervenes a lot in the African economy, and major projects going on both by federal government and institutional investors. So this is one source of fund for the AfDB. Now, the Vice President of Nigeria, Mr. Kashim Shettima, has reaffirmed President Bola Tinubu's administration's commitment to transform Nigeria's digital economy. He emphasized that the initiative is well supported with necessary partnerships and resources. Vice President Shettima shared this commitment during a courtesy visit from the Odua Investment Company Limited's management, led by the chairman, Mr. Bimbo Ashiru, at the presidential villa in Abuja. Mr. Ashiru praised President Tinubu for improving the business environment in the country and is encouraging citizens and investors to leverage the country's opportunities for business.
There are a lot of opportunities in this country. I remember vividly when President Clinton came to Nigeria, said Nigerians have no business going around the world looking for money, that your resources here, and it was starting. We're a country that is endowed with a lot of mineral and natural resources. With the caliber of person like the Vice President, who was in the private sector, who served as a former governor, he understands the terrain. He knows that our investors are our greatest assets, and that is what. And if you listen to him today, he feels that we have no business going around like what President Clinton said. Nigerians anywhere in the world, we are so important. People want to see Nigerians, and people that are making waves all over, they are Nigerians. Remember, Nigerians are members of the parliament, and we have made things easy. And I have to see that one of the priorities of this present government, Bola Tinubu, is for business to thrive in Nigeria, and they are making things easy.
Right now, the story of the day, the sad incident, which is still ongoing in Maiduguri, or Borno State generally, not just the capital, Maiduguri. But we've seen the level of flood. Well, I don't know if to call it flood, because we do know that this is coming from the dam. So it's not just about the rains right there. You see the picture, and if you have been watching channels since morning, you would have seen our correspondent, Ayola Kasim, is there and has been bringing us updates. She's gone to the camp. There you have it. Lives lost. Some very touchy stories we've heard. For instance, a woman who had labor in the midst of this. You can only imagine what has happened. Ayola spoke to a man who hasn't seen his family, 5 children and his wife, since all of this started. Very touchy story right there. And yesterday, Channels Television had that interview with the Minister of Health. Obviously, this is a health disaster in the waiting if it's not handled and nipped in the bud. Well, the minister has shared some of the plans that they have to try to send help, medicine, and other types of aid that will be needed right there. But you can imagine that part of what has been submerged are farmlands, are business enterprises, business premises that have been submerged. Let's talk about the farm, because we have to eat first, isn't it? Food security is a major one. So let's talk to a farmer who is there now and has had a first-hand experience of all of this. Garba Ndifu, he's a farmer, but the chief executive officer of Mumana Agro Venture. Garba, good morning.
Now, and has had a first-hand experience.
Garba, can you hear me?
He's a farmer, but the chief executive officer of Mumana Agro Venture. Garba, good morning.
Good morning, good to have you.
Can you hear me, Garba?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Good morning.
Okay, please do put off your television. I can hear myself from your television. Could you tune down or mute your TV?
Can you hear me, Garba?
Yes, I can hear you. Good morning.
Can you put off the volume of your television, please?
Myself from your television. Could you tune down?
All right, can you hear me now?
Yes.
All right, great. So share with us your experience. You're a farmer in Maiduguri, Borno State generally. I know you operate there. Tell us what's happening around you. Tell us what you've been experiencing since this thing started.
Hello, good morning.
Garba, please go ahead.
Yeah, we've been experiencing a lot here and a lot of damages as a result of the flood. This is something that actually affected almost all our farmlands around the flood axis. It totally swept off everything, and we really lost a lot. Most of us lost our farms around the axis. So it's something that it actually heart-touching. If you see how, now this is the main town of Maiduguri, as you can see, then imagine what happened around the farmland areas. From the dam to Maiduguri MMC is 10 kilometers away. And these 10 kilometers, people have been trying to adjust to suit into the situation of the insurgent, trying to do what they can do in order to put food on their table. And then, unfortunately, this occurred, which actually swept up everything around the axis.
So, Garba, paint the picture for us. Where are you? Is this close to your house? Are there some homes, perhaps, that have been able to still stay afloat in the midst of all of this?
Sorry?
I would like for you to paint the picture for us, starting with where you are at this moment. Are you in your house? Is your house in an area that has been able to escape this? Do you have people like that in such areas? What areas are those?
Yeah, of audio. I can't hear you.
Hello, Garba, can you hear me?
Yeah, now I can hear you.
So I'm asking, where are you now? Is it in an area that is off the flooded area? Do you have people, other people who are staying around you who have been able to escape this flood?
Yeah, I am living in an area where the flood has not affected it.
What's the name of the area? Who are the other people there?
I am living in Forgery layouts, just few meters away from Royal Clinic, which the flood has not actually affected the area I am living there. But I have a lot of friends that the flood has actually affected the area that they are in. It's actually swept their houses, their farmlands, and a lot of belongings.
Okay, so you are a farmer, and as you said, some farmlands have been affected by this. What are some of those crops, that you think will be affected, which means this is going to affect harvest, for the next season?
Yeah, it's going to actually affect harvest of the next season, because most people around there, we do farm cowpea, that's beans, groundnuts, sorghum, millet, and sesame seed. These are some of the things we farm around that location. So with this flood, and actually harvest is almost at the peak, and with this flood challenge, it's actually affected everything around there. Now I can bet you every farm around that particular axis, it's been affected 90% as a result of the flood. Some is being affected 100% completely. So this is actually going to affect the harvest of this season along that particular axis.
So if there was to be help, immediate help, that you see that's needed, what would it be, or what would it look like?
Actually, there is a need for immediate help around that particular axis. Now that the flood has actually swept up everything, if there is any help that any organization or government needs to do now, is to actually give immediate help for the affected victim now, then against the harvest now, I think the government needs to encourage into irrigation farming now, because almost everything has been lost. And you can imagine most farmers there, we only operate on extensive. We only do our inputs, then harvest at the end of the day, most of the farmers there. Now, with the intervention of the government or any organization to actually encourage farmers now to go into irrigation, because if you go through the history of Alo Dam, is actually constructed because of irrigation purposes. So if after this flood, if the government and any organization or individual will encourage to go into irrigation farming, then I think it's going to augment the effect of this flood in respect to our harvest and produce.
So when you say you think the government should encourage irrigation farming now, how do you think that can be started? And what parts of the state do you think it can best be used?
Yeah, now the insurgents has actually dropped. So along this Alo Dam and Maiduguri, the government can actually utilize that particular area for the irrigation farming. Then if you go through Maiduguri, if you look at the map, there are some channels of the water moving around. Now, if the government will actually use the water bank when the water has actually dropped, then utilize that particular area for irrigation farming, then it's actually going to be good and it's going to help a lot, because farmers now cannot move down the farmland that's hard to reach areas because of the insurgents around those axes. But if the government is going to utilize those areas, then it's actually going to do well. Then another thing is the government should also provide, should help in providing improved varieties of seed to go into the irrigation farming around Maiduguri axis.
All right, what crops, Garba, do you think could be focused on in this irrigation?
Yeah, the farmers can go into leguminous plants, which is going to be less intensive in work. Then it's going to give a positive yield for the farmers, and they are going to use it to augment their livelihood, because these leguminous plants, most of them are cash crops. It can be sold out. Leguminous plants such as onions, spinach, and carrots, all these fruits, it can also be planted around Maiduguri axis. Then you don't need a very large piece of land to go into, but you can actually harvest reasonably okay in order to sustain the livelihood of an individual.
All right, Garba, thank you so much for giving us that update, and so sorry for all of these losses. We will push the conversation of, making the most of what's available now. Chief Executive Officer of Mumana Agro Venture, thank you, and we wish you the best.
Thank you.
Now let's give you a summary of the picture of what's going on right there in Borno State. Not just farmers, other businesses have been affected. Even non-business individuals have been affected. That's captured in this next report.
The Maiduguri flood situation started last week Thursday when houses along the riverine areas experienced excess water flow into their homes. By Monday this week, most areas along the waterways and flood-prone areas were already flooded. By Tuesday morning, houses, markets, shops, and public infrastructure were already submerged. Hundreds of thousands of residents escaped the flood with little or no belongings. While some slept on the streets, others relocated to relatives living in safer locations. The state government directed all affected victims to take shelter in camps and schools while the floods receded. Some of the survivors who made it to the camps recount their experience.
We were home when they called to inform us that flood has submerged Budum. I have relatives there. While on my way there, I was called back that my area has been flooded too.
Search and rescue operations commenced on Wednesday as the flood continued to recede. By Thursday, September the 12th, the waters had receded in most locations, while some parts of the cities were still combating the floods. As regards economic activities, some shop owners recount their experience after the floods.
It was around 2 a.m. that we got the information, according to the sources of the people that told us that flood has started coming to take over our area.
At least more than 500 shops are affected. And you know that some shops, are there with 2 people, 3 people inside the same shop. So if you calculate more than 500 shops by human beings, you will find out that people will be more than 1,000 people.
I
make more profits. This is because those that were trapped by the flood, when they are rescued, we pay us higher fares to take them to safer places.
To provide for their families, survivors continue with their trade in the camps. Owing to the blockage of the major connecting roads across the state capital, the Biu-Damboa road has experienced increased vehicular movement, causing traffic jams as some of the camps, perishable markets, and other businesses have shifted to that axis of the city.
A whole lot happening in that state right there, and well, people still have to find a way to survive. So we saw businesses springing up even among the camps or within the camps right there, because people still have to eat and live, right? We'll give you updates on that. You don't want to miss Business Incorporated. We'll give you some other angles to that story going on in Maiduguri, Borno State. That'll be at 1 p.m. Business Incorporated. But now let's give you a bit of a closing numbers from the market. Yesterday, we saw a rebound in the NGX at the close of trade. We saw that the NGX, the all-share index, recovered and hit back the 97,000 in there, and it gained 178 billion naira. So we see it at 97,025.17, went up 0.32%. Equities cap still around 55 trillion naira, 55.753 trillion naira. We'll give you more numbers. Let's take a break, a commercial break, and then we'll come back. Yeah, so just before the break, we're giving you the numbers, closing numbers from yesterday. So we saw a positive move at the NGX. It closed in the positive 0.32%, and we're back to the 97,000 level right there. Let's look at the activity chart. Mostly red, though. It's just deals that escaped that and went up 0.73%, less than 1%. But I mean, we still had a positive market at the close of trade. We see top trades, Access, FBN, and UBA. So once again, the financial services sector topping the list right there. And of course, the banking counter ended in the green, 1.52%. There you have it. UBA, Zenith Bank, and I think Access, they drove that. Consumer goods is also closed in the positive at the close of trade. Dangote Sugar, I think the sentiment changed around it. Instead of profit taking, we saw a bit of cherry picking. The industrial goods almost unchanged, but a little bit of green, so a little bit of positive sentiments around it. Insurance is still in the red. Closing the red yesterday, 0.41%. Oil and gas has been thriving, so we do expect that investors will want to take some profit out of it. So that's why you see oil and gas down 0.63%. Oando, our darling in that counter, of course, has to also give away some profit. Now let's look at the unlisted market, the NEST, and see how that did. We saw the previous day it was a positive sentiment for that market, but at the close of trade yesterday, it was negative 0.05%, and it's at 2,221.31. Market cap more than 3 trillion naira. I do remember not very long ago when the market cap here used to struggle with 1 trillion naira. So let's celebrate our wins, and not just sweep it under the carpet and only talk about the negatives. Activity charts there was more of green. Volume was in the green, up about 51%. Value dropped 65.5%. Deals unchanged, but stocks traded went up about 11%. So 10 stocks were traded at the close of first day's trade. Been a while since we did the fixed income market on Business Morning, so let's do a bit of that this morning. The FGM bonds yesterday, we had 48 deals worth 39.7 billion. And looking at the securities right there, at least now the domestic dollar domestic bond is finished, so we can do our normal market. 14 deals is what we saw on the June 2038, followed by May 2033. A bit of, I think, the mid The mid securities got a lot of attention yesterday from the federal government bonds at the close of trade. The NTB, the Treasury bills, had 114. This is secondary market, really active yesterday on the Treasury bills. So we saw 73 deals on the September 2025. That's just less than a year left to mature, as well as the September 2025 also fourth. So you see 13 and 73. So the shorter securities got a lot of attention at the NTB yesterday. The ones that's December this year as well as next year. So mostly the most active securities were the short-term securities that are maturing later September 2025. 114. That's a huge activity that we had there at the NTB. Almost of the central bank, only 6 deals is what were recorded at the market yesterday. The August 2025 and May 2025 had that. So 4 of the August 2025 and 2 of May, and the deals were just 6 worth 6 billion naira. So that's how the market did. Fixed income market missed that for a bit. I guess we'll be trying and do more of that these days. Now let's head back to the Sunrise Daily Studio. But do remember to come back here to the business studio at 1 p.m. for Business Incorporated. I'll be here with Anita Edet, and want to give you updates also from what's going on in Borno State, the flood there, as well as other stories. It'll take us 55 minutes. You don't want to miss it. Let's head back to the Sunrise Daily Studio.
The Presidential Enabling Business Environment Council, PEBEC, chaired by Vice President Kashim Shettima at the State House, Abuja, is for the signing of the Cape Town Convention Practice Direction, which regulates aircraft leasing across the world. The Chief Judge of the Federal High Court, Justice John Soho, signed the document on behalf of the federal government. This move by the federal government is expected to enable domestic airline operators to dry lease aircrafts, an arrangement which involves hiring an aircraft without a flight crew. The Vice President sees it as a milestone achievement in the aviation sector in Nigeria.
The present administration, headed by His Excellency President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, is a pro-business government, is a pro-Nigeria government, and will take all necessary measures, as painful as some might be, to protect, promote, project, and preserve the interests of the Nigerian nation. Be rest assured that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is keenly interested in the promotion and preservation of the Nigerian airline industry.
Stakeholders in an interview with State House Correspondent say this achievement will enhance a positive change in the aviation sector.
The President has inadvertently increased the capacity of the Nigerian airlines in the aviation space. So a message has been sent to the entire aviation world by President Ahmed Bola Tinubu that the Nigerian airline industry is good to go.
Because Mr. President is really committed to addressing challenges one by one, this is one of the fruits of what he has done. And I just want to thank Mr. President for his attention to ease of doing business and making sure that Nigeria is a progressively easier place to start and grow a business.
They are also optimistic that this latest feat will reduce the cost of insurance for airlines and restore investors' confidence in the nation's aviation sector. From the presidential villa, Emperor Simon, Channels Television News.
And that brings us to the second part of our conversation this morning. We are looking at the aviation sector and what this CTC project is all about. And joining us for that conversation is aviation consultant, Mr. Yemi Dada. It's nice to have you on the program. Good morning.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Let's start with the beginning, because we need to understand what this CTC practice is. What is it? And I see that in many other countries there are parts of it, and it's not the only convention that we're seeing, it's not the only agreements that we're seeing. But let's talk about this one. What's it all about?
Well, the Cape Town Convention is a convention that came into force in 2001. Nigeria ratified that in 2003 and domesticated it in 2006 through the Civil Aviation Act. It's really about interest in mobile assets that can go across territories. One of them is the aircraft assets, and then you have what they call the rolling stock assets, which are train, locomotives, coaches, and then you have space assets, satellites, such. Nigeria has basically focused on the aircraft assets in our adoption of the Cape Town Convention. And so over time, we've sort of deepened our involvement and signaling to the international communities who seem to have a perception issue about how Nigeria has been handling aircraft that come into the territory. And so this is one more step, signaling to the international leasing community that Nigeria will allow aircraft come into the territory easily, and when they have to leave, if as a result of dispute, it will be easily resolved and they will have their assets back.
Okay. Well, we saw some airline operators at that meeting at the Villa yesterday. We saw Air Peace there as well. What impact does this arrangement have on airline operations in Nigeria?
Well, like I said, it's signaling to the leasing community. It's been a challenge for Nigerian airlines to especially dry lease aircraft, which is take on airplanes, register them on the Nigerian register, and operate with Nigerian crew or crew with Nigerian licenses. This is essentially because of this fear and this perception that it's a difficult environment to operate in. When aircraft come, they are unable to take them back. It's a perception issue which is not really real. There have been some instances in the past where it has happened, where some airlines have resorted to self-help rather than return the equipment when they have a dispute with the lessor. They sort of hold back the aircraft, and this has now tainted the reputation of Nigerian airlines internationally. And even though this is just one leg of the challenge that airlines currently face now, which is being resolved by this practice direction, since the Cape Town Convention itself has been ratified, domesticated, and even further strengthened by the amendment of the Civil Aviation Act in 2022. This practice direction is like a user manual for the judiciary, so that judges are not necessarily experts in everything, but when they have a step-by-step guide to show them what needs to be done in any situation, everybody that is a stakeholder will be able to read that and understand that when they approach the courts, these are going to be the unified way in which issues of disputes will be handled.
I mean, one of the things that came out of yesterday's meeting is the fact that this particular agreement is supposed to reduce the cost of airline operations in Nigeria, especially in our aviation sector. Talk to us a bit about, how that works out.
I'm not so certain that this will reduce the cost. It's like I said, one leg of the signaling part where it's supposed to give confidence to aircraft lessors to look at Nigeria favorably. The cost of leasing aircraft basically revolves again around that trust issue, because lessors now, in other territories where they will ask for 1 month of a deposit and 1 month advance payment, will ask Nigerian carriers sometimes to give them 6 months advance payment, 1 year advance payment, and where you're even able to put in place an arrangement where you have a letter of credit or a guarantee. The Nigerian banks are unable to provide that guarantee directly because the international lessors don't trust the territory generally. So they will ask for a letter of credit from a European bank or a US bank or a South African bank. And so your bank in Nigeria will essentially have to give a back-to-back guarantee. So they guarantee from here to an European bank who is their partner, who then issues a guarantee to the lessor. That creates layers of costs and inconvenience in the process of leasing airplanes. So essentially, yes, this signaling will say we are a territory that wants to be able to give you ease of getting your aircraft, so you shouldn't be putting onerous terms on leasing aircraft to Nigerian carriers instead of these 6 months or letters of credit, where in Nigeria, in actual fact, your letters of credit are essentially cash. And the way it is worded, most Nigerian banks would want the security for the entire period of the lease, which is sometimes 60 months. And so it becomes unaffordable. And that's one of the big challenges that we have. So beyond this signaling to give comfort to the lessors, we need to work on the financial side of things in the finance industry, where our banks will have capacity or will have a fund that can either acquire aircraft and lease to Nigerian operators at affordable rates.
You know, this picture you're painting now, it's a big picture, so to speak. As some would say, the Nigerian aviation industry there's still a whole lot of work. So there is some joy, as some people will say, there's celebration in the aviation industry in Nigeria right now over this CTC signing. But beyond the CTC, now we know that, okay, coming from, as I say, the data is situated in the contracting state, or the aircraft or helicopter is registered in another contracting state, so we're happy about that. Okay, that's one thing on ground. But the other challenges to the aviation sector in Nigeria, things like poorly maintained airports, outdated air traffic control systems in some aspects or in large aspects of the sector, and limited terminal or runway lengths or capacity, so to speak. Would this CTC in any way help in that aspect? Because these are on-ground things that need to be taken care of to even look at increasing the viability of our aviation sector.
Well, again, just like the issue we have with the CTC, there is also a lot of perception issue. And these issues that you raised, poorly maintained aircraft is a myth because none of those people who operate airplanes want to fly airplanes that are not properly maintained. The owners also put their families and friends on those airplanes. Maybe sometime in the Asian past we might have had such issues, but maintenance in Nigeria has been upped a great deal. The Civil Aviation Authority had gone through a revamping over 20 years ago, and in fact, we complain that airlines in Nigeria are overregulated, because you can take off from Lagos and get ramped in Abuja and go to Port Harcourt and get ramp checked as well. So the issues of infrastructure are germane. We have infrastructure that are stretched and require a lot of funding to improve. The federal government cannot do this on their own, and we've been championing the initiative to concession the airports. The runways are quite decent. Most airports, the length is adequate, but like everything, things can be better with the terminals, with the ramp, infrastructure, and so on. So yes, all these other things affect how the airlines perform. But fundamentally, if we are going to be talking about the subject matter, which is about availability of aircraft in the territory, we really need to work on funding for the airlines. We cannot continue to borrow at over 30% to operate in a sector where the margins are very, very slim. And the disposable income of the population is also very, very low, and in some cases non-existent. So we're looking at a situation where we want to turn the airline business into a mass carrier, competition against buses, but the fares are so different in other places.
Mr. Dada, if I may come in here, you said we need to look at the issue of funding. Now,
yes, please.
Part of the issues around funding of the aviation sector include funding maintenance, which is most times done outside when they go for turnaround maintenance, or basically for the various checks that require that they need to do year in, year out. What if we would focus or look towards setting up aircraft maintenance facilities in the country? That would reduce the amount of money, being spent to get those aircraft out of the country for maintenance and bringing them back. Can that also help if the banking sector is not exactly set to fund the aviation industry in Nigeria? Mr. Dada, okay, lost him temporarily there. Hopefully we can get him to come back in while we're waiting for Mr. Dada, the aviation consultant, to get back and talk to us. This matter of aircraft maintenance is another area altogether. Maintaining the airports. The airports themselves are poorly maintained. The aircraft, one of those days I was flying and I actually took a video of where I was sitting and water was dripping. I was getting that drip before takeoff. And I was like, come on, this is supposed to be.
I look at where Mr. Dada is coming from. A lot has been done. Things are a lot better in our aviation sector. But it's not uhuru yet. It's not perfect yet. There's another issue. I know that we're trying to look at this CTC agreement that has been signed.
I think we have Mr. Dada back now.
Okay.
Mr. Dada, can I just get back on that question I asked?
Yes, please.
Yeah, the matter of funding. Yes, you said we need to look at how to fund the aviation sector. But before that, you mentioned earlier that our banks, our financial institutions are not exactly set to fund effectively, so to speak. And I said, to manage the funds that are available, now that we have the CTC to help in the leasing area, to manage the funds that are available, what if aircraft maintenance facilities are set up across board? I know that there was one in Ikeja owned by the defunct Nigeria Airways. Is that okay now? Some states are looking at setting up these kind of facilities. Would that help to reduce the funds needed?
Yeah, that essentially will help address the issue of the foreign exchange challenge that airlines face. It's a partnership that needs to be developed between the airlines and the fund providers. Some states, like the Akwa Ibom state government, has been working hard to set up an MRO in Uyo. Aero contractors, the oldest private carrier in Nigeria, does have a maintenance facility, in some sense, but it just does the work. They're able to do checks to a certain level on some airplanes here in Nigeria. I think more has to be done in this regard. There was an initiative by ECOWAS to create a regional maintenance and repair organization. And I think it's one of the cardinal programs of the Federal Ministry of Aviation over the last administration, and I think this administration has been talking about that as well. So it is an important thing that we need to domesticate the maintenance of our airplanes as much as possible. It will help on the foreign exchange side, but not in terms of the cost of fund, which is what I was talking about, which is essentially something that we need to create a cheap fund that will fund the airline industry. It can't be run on the level of interest being charged by local banks as is.
I mean, I was, looking at the aviation sector, not just in Nigeria, but around the world, but really in Nigeria, one of the biggest problems that is faced is the high cost of operation. Could you talk to us a bit about that? I mean, from the standpoint of an aviation consultant, when we look at the high cost of operation, what can be done about that? Because really that cost comes back to the consumer, doesn't it?
Well, by the very nature of the industry, safety is expensive. Like the saying goes, it's better to be safe than sorry. So in the concepts of aviation practice, there are several inbuilt parts where, for example, government-owned facilities are not meant to generate a profit. They are meant to charge a fee just for recovery of the services they provide. So air navigation service providers like NEMA are not meant to make a profit. They're meant to openly create a charge, discuss with the industry so that they can see transparently and charge what is appropriate and not something to make a profit of. The other inputs in the business are also quite expensive, but it's something that you work on your cost as you operate. So you front load a lot of investment, and over time you recover them. And while the cost is high at the beginning, over time you get the benefits.
I'm looking at some of the things that have happened about this agreement over the years. In fact, some local operators had in the past breached that Cape Town Convention, and the one that regulates aircraft leasing around the world. And it led to the Aviation Working Group, co-chaired by Airbus and Boeing, to say that Nigeria will be blacklisted until it implements a law that will guide against the repeat of such a breach. So with the signing of this, with us implementing this, are we officially not going to be on that blacklist?
Well, I don't understand why they said we need to implement the law, because we've actually implemented the law since 2006. We domesticated the Cape Town Convention in 2006 as the Civil Aviation Authority has the function to maintain the register of aircraft and engines and other appliances in the territory, and to note the interest of the owners. Apart from the International Registry on Aircraft, where this is also supposed to be noted by the owners. So it's not a function of that. This just signals to the international community that if there is a dispute and you approach the Nigerian courts, you are not going to be tied in that process for a very long time while your asset sits down and rots away. So the practice direction will show them what the Nigerian judiciary knows and what they are going to do. And the only way we can begin to show that we are doing it is by practicing it. So, while we hope that no dispute comes, that we go to court to prove that we now are able to take airplanes and release them when there's a dispute, we hope that this signaling will give them enough comfort to begin to work on the onerous terms that they give to Nigerian airlines when we want to lease airplanes.
I mean, the Vice President, very excited yesterday, said it was a historic day for the Nigerian people. And of course, it's not Justice Soho, of course, from the judiciary in that particular meeting. But I want to be able to talk to you about the aviation sector away from this agreement. There have been so many complaints on service delivery, cancellation of flights, postponements without explanations, and things like that. You've been speaking earlier about how things are a lot better than they were before. But with the issues that we keep seeing right now, with the complaints that we keep getting from customers, especially those who use airplanes in Nigeria, quite a lot of complaints about service delivery. From your point of view as an expert in that sector, what can be done to make it better? And are airlines living up to the expectations when it comes to service delivery to the Nigerian people?
Well, unfortunately, that is one part where the industry at current is struggling to keep its promise to its consumers. The onus is on the Nigerian Civil Aviation Authority to help the airlines keep to the terms of their agreement with their customers. Sometimes it is not the fault of the airlines, but of recent, I think a number of airlines are stretching their capacity too much, and that obviously results in this issue where schedule recovery becomes a challenge and leads to delays and cancellations. It's something that we really need to work on as an industry if we want to maintain the confidence of the customers.
I want to thank you so much, Mr. Yemi Dada, for being with us on the program, and good luck with all the work that you have ahead of you.
Thank you very much, Kyle. Have a nice day.
Mr. Yemi Dada, the aviation consultant, joining us via Zoom from Ibadan. We do have some feedback this Friday before we wrap up.
Yeah, I guess Kayla is in a hurry to get out there
Yes, I am.
to Friday to weekend. But let's take this feedback, starting out with this one from Professor Imonuka Inakina. He says, when government says they know those sponsoring terrorism and kidnappings in their states, and the person is known to the president, then it behoves on the naysayers that affirmed that some political heavyweights and people beyond the might of the CIC are sponsoring insecurity in their states to be true.
I think he goes on. There's more to that message.
Either there is no effective communication between the military, police, DSS, and paramilitary organizations, or there are persons within these organizations trading information to these outlaws and terrorists, or the morale of the men on the front line is low, or they are simply not equipped or lack the numbers to adequately prosecute these affronts.
I mean, it is a very precarious situation when you look at the security, especially in Zamfara state, which is why we come off a little hard on them when we have them on the program. Pastor Law Alpha C says, the unfortunate security turnout in Zamfara and other parts of the country is the reason there is food insecurity. I'm expecting the federal government and state government to up their game and nip this evil ravaging our country in the bud.
Then there's this one from AGKAZ, talking about the flood situation, I guess. It says, my heart goes out to the families of the fallen security agents or still security who paid the supreme price in an attempt to rescue staff of Setraco. I feel this is a needless waste of life. How can you not foresee the possibility of an ambush in such a scenario? That's coming from AGKAZ.
Do we have more?
No.
I think that's all, isn't it?
Yes, indeed. That's all the feedback we can take for now. I want to thank you, all those that sent in their mails and tweets. We do appreciate. And this is where we say thank you for letting us be a part of your day and your week. The weekend starts now. But remember that you, from where you are, you can do something different, something good, better than what you did yesterday. Thank you. I'm Neota Igbe.
Have a great Friday. Enjoy your weekend. Stay safe. Our condolences go to everyone in Borno, everyone in Zamfara who's suffering at this time, those in Leasing local government area of Kaduna State, and indeed the whole country. If you're going through one thing or the other, our condolences, and we hope that you come out of it stronger. Let's pray for our country. I'm Kayla Megwa. Enjoy the rest of your weekend.